Hello, and this is a video of how I am making the clock to go on the cover of my folio for my Halloween project for ReneaBouquets. So I'm using here this spiderweb clock face with the clock hands that come with it, and you have your choice of hands that you want to use. This is the large spiderweb clock. And then I have these little flourishes here, and they come in a set of 2, so you need 3 sets to do the clock. I might use more throughout the folio, I'm not sure yet. I will have a link to all these products in my walkthrough video, and so I'll have a link of the walkthrough video down below in the description box of this video. So this here, I'm just going to show you how I am making this clock, and I want to show you how to do it by hand so that you don't need to have any kind of software program or electronic cutting machine to make this clock. You can do it on your software program and cut out the chipboard and the paper. So I'll give you the measurements so that you can design it on your program, but you don't need to do that. And so get started here. The first thing I did was to cut it out on paper. And so the first thing I wanted to make sure that I had the size right was for the sides, and that's because I wanted to make sure I could fit the 3 flourishes down the side. So I cut 2 pieces at 5 inches long and 1 1/8 inches wide. So that's 5 inches tall by 1 1/8 inches wide. And then I cut a piece that was 3 3/4, so 3/4 inches tall and 6 1/4 inches wide. So that's 3/4 tall and 6 1/4 wide, or 6 1/4. And for the top here, I was just going to use my compass to get the arch that I needed, or the dome that I needed for the clock. But when I pulled it out, I have this student's math set that I got at Office Depot, and it's by Stadler. Anyway, that's the brand right there. And it had this compass in there, and the compass is 6 inches wide, which is what the clock is. So, and it was the perfect height. So all I needed to do was trace this. If you don't have this compass or can't get access to this compass, protractor, this is a protractor ruler, then you could definitely use your compass. Or if you're designing it on your program, then really all you need to know is that it's that it is 6 inches wide and it's a little over 3 inches tall. And you'll just have to play around with it till you can get the exact, you want an even dome shape here. And so what I did was this ended up being the perfect shape. So it has these edges right here that stick out, but I wanted to line up this flat edge here against this edge of my brown paper. So I just lined it up here, and then I traced here, and then I traced it here, and then I took my ruler and just finished off that line and just went all the way across here. And then these pieces here, I lined them up just slightly over this line here. And the reason I did that is because I just wanted a really nice smooth transition from the archway straight to the sides. So, it took me a couple times before I got that. So it's just, and I've been there. just a couple times, so, you know, till I got, well, I was happy with it, that I felt like I had a really nice smooth transition with the line down. Then I marked here, and then once I had those lines, the 1 1/8 inch wide, then I was able to take my ruler and just make sure they're straight on my paper, and the same thing on the other side. So then I have my straight lines going down the side, and then I just put this up here and just traced around, and then took my ruler and then just made sure that it was all nice and even and straight. And so then I have this design here, which I cut out here. Now before you cut it out, just double check and make sure that your dome is the size that you need. You don't want it too tall here, you don't want it too shallow here. So make sure that your dome has got a nice even border around the base of your clock. Excuse me. And then so that's it. So then I cut this out, and I recommend, if you're doing this by hand, cut it out on, well, either way, I recommend doing it on scratch paper first to make sure it's correct, and that everything's good, and that it fits your clock face the way you want it to, and then you can trace this out onto your design paper. Now I'm going to be putting this on chipboard, so I will show you how I am going to do that, and by hand anyway. If you're using your like your silhouette or something, they have a chipboard that you can cut out with the right settings on your program there. So, but if you're doing it by hand, then again you're going to cut 2 pieces at 1 1/8 by 5 inches tall. Then you're going to cut this one 3/4 by 6 1/4 wide, just like we did the paper. And for the dome, I've got this piece here, and you're probably thinking, what the heck? So I'm going to show you what I did here. So I took my chipboard and I lined up the edge of the chipboard to this edge here on this paper that I cut out. And so I lined up the edges. Get that where it's at. And then I traced around. And then I cut the excess chipboard off, so you don't want very much excess chipboard. And then I'm gonna zoom in just a little bit. And you can see here I have these lines that I've cut up to the edge of the traced line. And they're about every 1/4 inch apart. It doesn't have to be exact, because this is all, it's just to help you manipulate and cut a round shape on this medium weight chipboard. This is not the thin stuff, this is the heavier stuff. So it has no give. If you just try and cut into it without doing these lines, it has no give, and it's really difficult to cut into a circular pattern. So by cutting these lines, when I cut this out, they're just gonna fall away as I'm cutting. I don't know if you can see that these pieces are just falling away as I cut them or not. Okay, so now I have my circular pattern here, or my dome shape, and so then I have my chipboard piece that will go on my cover. Now before I put it on the cover, I need to I need to put the paper on. So if you want, you can just cut a one single piece of paper from your, I'm going to scroll back out again. You can cut out a single piece of design paper like this here with whatever design paper you choose, and then glue it on all the chipboard, or you can, you know, turn it over and glue your chipboard on like that if it's easier to glue it this way. But anyway, you want to glue the front on first, and that's just in case you want to ink your edges and so on. So you're gonna ink all your edges and do whatever you need to do to get this on here good and even, and then you're going to turn it over and then glue. You want a piece of paper in the center of your clock here, the back of the clock. So whatever piece of paper that you choose to put on that you want sticking up, you're going to glue it. When it's turned over on the back, you're going to glue it face down. So I think I don't think I'm going to use this paper, but just say I'm going to use this paper, I would glue it face down like that, so that when I turn it over, this side is showing up through the center. And then I have a piece, a 1/4 inch wide, and it's about 3.5 inches. I don't know if it's going to stay 3.5. I'm going to be gluing, you know, some kind of circular design here or onto chipboard, but I might use a sticker from the collection, or I might just do a circle and put a spider on it. I haven't decided yet. So anyway, once I figured out how, I don't want it to be too low, so I might have to adjust the height on this, if depending on the size of my little pendulum piece that's going on the bottom. And then before I glue, once I've got all my cover paper on, and I've got my paper in the back, once everything's on, then I can glue my clock down, and then I will glue this in place. And then before I put the face on, I'm going to be spray painting all these pieces in black. So I've sprayed a couple of them here, and I will put a description in the description box, the type of spray paint I used, but just any regular spray paint should work fine. And I just sprayed from all 4 sides as I was spraying, so that I could make sure that all these little inside pieces were covered with paint. And I'm going to go over with the second coat just in case there's any little spots that got missed. And it's just nice to have a second coat. Don't spray too thick or too close. You don't want it to be yucky. And then once those are all spray painted, they'll go on I'll put those on the cover. And then I'm going to be spray painting this also. But and then after, depending on whether you're going to trace this or just, this is a 3.5 inch. Let me just make sure. I believe it's a 3.5 inch. Yeah, 3.5 inch circle. So with your circle cutter, you can cut out a piece of paper that's 3.5 round, or if you don't have a circle cutter, just trace it and cut it. And you could use an X-Acto knife to make sure you get any edges showing off your paper. But I'm going to probably use this spiderweb paper for my background. And of course this will be spray painted black, so I think it'll look like cobwebs are in my clock. I'm hoping. That's kind of the look I'm going for. If it's too busy, I might use one of their solid patterns, Authentique. I'm using the Authentique Twilight paper for this Halloween folio. If I think the spiderweb paper is too busy, then I will go ahead and use a solid, but I think it'll be okay with the spiderweb showing behind it. And so then once that paper's glued on to the back, then I will glue the entire thing. And I'm gonna only be gluing, you know, half the clock, the top half, so that it'll be sticking up so that this pendulum will fit behind it. And just make sure you got an even space here when you glue it down. And then I will spray paint the hands and glue those down. And I may or may not, I don't really think I need to, but I may or may not put a little centerpiece there onto the hands, but we'll see. So that's how I made my clock, or I'm making my clock. Obviously I haven't made it yet, but that's how I'm going to do it. And so you'll see it on the cover. Like I said, I'll put a link to the walkthrough below in the description box below so that you can refer to that, the whole entire project. And I will have a description of the and links to the products that I'm using in that walkthrough video, and you can see the entire thing on how I did it. And I will do a tutorial on the actual folio. I will do a separate video for that. So that's my clock. If you have any questions, please message me and I will try to get back to you as soon as I can. All right, thank you for watching. Bye.